I would like to introduce Project Beta. My name is Ian Chaplin. People are capable of a lot, but for every act, they need some amount of space. This is me inside a square of 80 by 80 centimeters. It is tight, but I can stand here fine. If a square would raise a meter, then it can become a chair or a platform. At 2 meters, it can fit 2 of me, although at 3, it is far more comfortable. 4 squares fit 4 of me. I would use the space differently depending on how high the squares are placed, differently depending on how the squares relate. And everyone would use this space differently than I do. In architecture, we speculate on an appropriate size of a space. This way, we can create the conditions necessary for a person to do a thing or two in a possible future. In response, we also condition the way people walk around. Create enclosures by placing walls. Provide openings to let people enter or exit. Organization is the key to decide if people can move along and interact with each other, and how a space can be used. In some circumstances, an enclosed space can result in unwanted acts. But as an architect, you can design it to be safe. We can provide a strong structure that can be an opportunity to build skywards. As architects, we use our expertise for those that pay us, whom often want to create conditions that define what tasks others should do. But what do you think of public space? Shouldn't we keep the future use of a space open for the people to decide how they want to make use of it and what kind of infill they think is appropriate? Let them decide whether we organize a space in 2 parts with 2 entrances, or rather with 4. What do people want to use to get from one floor to another? Would people like small buildings, or would they choose to connect multiple structures and make larger one? Would they sacrifice part of their inside space for plants and to experience the weather? What would work better, straight outside spaces or whimsical spaces? Do they want an opportunity for personal expression that they can share among fellow citizens? How do they want to move from one place to another? How would they choose to engage with the virtual domain? We as experts don't know what the public wants in the future. Therefore, we design a public space to our personal tastes, under the banner that this would keep it clean and safe. This project critically responds on this notion, begging the question, does an architect need to express her or himself in everything to provide order in public space? Concrete is a material that will sustain itself for hundreds of years. With the help of only a few precast concrete shapes, a whole array of types of structures can be put together. The method of securing a solid mold will be used to connect the elements on site, to fill up, to have a blank canvas, or to suspend future elements to the structure. Additions need to stand strong. Every expansion will be assessed by a civil engineer. When exterior space becomes interior, there's also a climate advisor to give an evaluation. This project will stand strong, while the opinions and additions of the people will change. With the horizontal grid, organization is easy. With its help, an architect performing as a spatial curator can control what can and can't be done. The openings will work as frames for projects in or between them. The architect as curator performs his duty much like a president, as the one in charge. A person chosen by the people, for the people. Working with and for a collective of citizens that can be joined by anyone in the city. Approved by the government, the curator is granted executive powers on this plot. But because she or he is working for the collective and not for the government, there is a direct link between the people and public expression. Away from the rhetorics and bureaucracy of a public office. This project will work as an experiment. as a critical display, but most of all as a place for the people to learn of and engage with other people. Project Beta may seem itself like a foreign object in the city. But surrounded by buildings of 4 and 5 stories, it does relate to its scale and atmosphere. It may look foreign, but it is designed to strengthen the qualities of the area. When Project Beta is received as a success and people evaluate public space as something that they can participate in, there likely will be 2 distinct conclusions that influence its expansion. Type 1. The beta structures were found to be too dominating. People enjoy the empowerment and would now like to build from scratch. The curator takes a step backwards and will merely advise and organize the iterations of projects. This type responds to the huge impersonal buildings that distance themselves from the binnenrotte and any engagement with it. The small autonomous shapes that will likely be constructed can only be understood as shapes that act in self-defense of a more personal and social public space. Type 2. The structures proposed in Project Beta were found to be too separate. There's too much facade to be sustainable in the Dutch climate. People agree, the spatial constraints need to be more tight. To adhere to a bigger plan, taking part means to contribute. And climate design needs to be an integral part of any addition. As a social project, Type 2 would fit the many other idealistic icons that lay around the same square. Taking them head-on, it can proclaim to be the most valuable type of architecture for a civil society. What is different about this project? I never set out to make architecture, or even to practice like an architect. It is the result of looking at why we are practicing the way we do through a history of practice. After hypothesizing at what an aspect of our practice contributed to a specific time and place, I respond on it from a personal understanding of how it can be improved to reflect contemporary conditions and a specific context. Therefore, this project is no architecture, but the result of practicing critical architecture.